Cinema has a long history of characters who never truly recognized how good they had it thanks to other people.
I can handle things, I'm smart!
Released in 1990, the film Pretty Woman stars Hollywood heavyweights Richard Gere as millionaire Edward Lewis and Julia Roberts as Lady of the Night Vivian Ward.
I've never had anyone make me feel as cheap as you did today.
Somehow I find that very hard to believe.
In short, Vivian is a 20-something statuesque LA transplant from Georgia who, after struggling to get a foothold in the big city, is taken under the wing of a drug addict streetwalker, Kit DeLuca.
$50, Grandpa. For 75, the wife can watch.
Kit introduces Vivian to the life of pay for play.
Don't take less than 100. Work it, baby, work it.
And drags her deeper into the murky depths of it.
Maybe we should get a pimp, you know. Carlos really digs you.
Eventually, Vivian meets Edward and the story becomes a fairy tale where a streetwalker is saved by a handsome millionaire. Ah yes, the life Instagram models dream of. Edward hires Vivian for 6 days, think girlfriend experience, and in that short time he showed her a life that heretofore she never thought possible. But was it ever appreciated?
If I forget to tell you later, I had a really good time tonight.
Or did it only lead to Vivian feeling entitled enough to demand more?
I want the fairy tale.
As a successful man, you can give some women the world and it will never lead to her appreciation, only a sense of entitlement that you will live to regret. Welcome back to the Pitt Lessons. And this is the Vivian Vortex. When they meet, Edward is driving lost in the city. Vivian approaches, he asks for directions, and instead of being a decent person, Vivian opts for extortion.
Give me directions?
Sure. For $5.
Ridiculous.
Price just went up to 10.
You can't charge me for directions.
I can do anything I want to, baby. I ain't lost.
So from the start, we're shown two things. One, Vivian will take advantage of a man in any situation. And two, her default setting is monetary exchange, even where one need not exist. As the story goes on, we get to know a little bit more about Kit, the Shifu of hooking.
Did I not teach you anything?
And yes, the one who befriended Vivian and later encouraged her to sell herself to Edward.
You should go for him. You look hot tonight.
The phrase birds of a feather flock together exists for a reason. On the surface, Vivian seems to be nothing like Kit.
Sure don't fit in down on the boulevard looking like you do. Not that you ever did.
But in reality, these two gravitate to one another because deep down, they are the same broken archetype. And both have proven themselves to be on the lookout for the best way possible to extract resources from the people they're around while giving as little as possible in return.
When I'm with a guy, I'm like a robot. I just do it. I mean, except with you.
Of course not with me.
The original version of Pretty Woman was nothing like what went to theaters. It was closer to Leaving Las Vegas than it ever was to Cinderella. And in that original version, Vivian is the more pronounced drug addict.
Oh, I do not want any drugs here. I don't want any of this. Get your things and your money and please leave.
I don't do drugs, all right? I stopped doing drugs when I was 14.
The original draft supports when you begin seeing someone, pay close attention to who her friends are.
He's a drug dealer. It has to do with Kit. Let's just go.
I can promise you, she is either just like them or will be influenced by them, more than likely both. When Edward invites Vivian into the hotel, it was clearly no strings attached.
Listen, I appreciate this whole seduction scene you've got going, but let me give you a tip. I'm a sure thing.
They have a good time together, so he decides he'd like to enjoy her company a little longer.
Guess I'd like to hire you as an employee. Would you consider spending the week with me? I will pay you to be at my beck and call.
A lot of us have been there from the standpoint of you begin seeing someone you know you have no business being with. And just like that, Vivian is living a life she could only dream of. Again, this film came out in 1990, but in modern day, does that remind you of anyone? Vivian, like many in the real world, began to forget her part in their dynamic as foreshadowed when Edward first hired her.
Baby, I'm gonna treat you so nice, you're never gonna wanna let me go.
With cash in hand,
Cash works for me, yeah.
a hotel suite, clothes from Rodeo Drive, and people who now cater to her. Pay close attention and you will begin to see Vivian's incremental slide into entitlement.
But I'm here now. You're late. Don't do it again.
I want more.
It may seem innocent or even playful at times, but you can overlook her growing entitlement at your own risk.
It's a trap!
And no place is this clearer than when Edward allows Vivian to start impacting his work.
Why don't you not go to work tomorrow? Take the day off.
He's taking the day off?
That's what he said.
I cannot emphasize this point enough.
Let me tell you something! Let me tell you something!
You will find many modern women will not be a place of peace. In reality, it is about two things. One, her need for constant attention. And two, her desire to test you. That lack of appreciation is a fundamental element of entitlement, and Vivian put it on full display as the film was coming to a close.
Asshole.
In the theatrical release of the film, Edward is smitten by her, and he actually wants to give her a better life.
My business is almost over, so I'll be going back to New York. I'd really like to see you again. I've arranged for you to have an apartment, have a car.
And what is Vivian's response to this?
What else? You can leave some money by the bed when you pass through town?
Vivian, it really wouldn't be like that.
How would it be?
Well, for one thing, it would get you off the streets.
That's just geography.
And keep in mind, just like the real world, Edward told Vivian what it was at the very start.
You're a rich, good-looking guy. You could get 1,000,000 girls free.
I want a professional. Don't need any romantic hassles this week.
Please do not fall for the woman who does not appreciate anything beyond the last thing you literally just did for her. In the final cut of the film, Edward falls for Vivian's manipulation. What's worse, Vivian truly believed she's done as much for Edward as he's done for her.
So what happened after? He climbed up the tower and rescued her.
She rescues him right back.
Where do I even begin? Frankly, it makes you wish the original version of the script would have been adhered to, as that resembled...
Who could forget the timeless classic Pretty Woman? Let's see what happened in the real version.
You gotta get the fuck out of here.
In conclusion, dealing with any ungrateful person, especially in the romantic sense, is not something that will get easier over time. The rising tide of entitlement might lift their boat in the short term, but in the long run, it'll be you who drowns.
Impossible! I can't be married to a prostitute!
The script changed a lot.
Pretty Woman became one of the most commercially successful rom-coms ever.